Welcome back to Bookish Dives. Okay, so if you're one of those people, super curious, always learning, but maybe also sometimes feeling overwhelmed by all the information out there, and maybe that pressure for some kind of perfect linear success, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, it really is. We're diving into Tiny Experiments, How to Live Freely in a Goal-Obsessed World by Anne-Laure Le Cunff.
Yeah.
And this book, it's not just offering new tactics or anything. It really challenges that whole foundational belief system most of us grew up with, right?
That idea that success is just this straight ladder you have to climb, step by step.
Exactly. Using those really rigid, predictive goal-setting frameworks, this book questions all of that.
Right. So our mission today is basically to pull out the core ideas, the toolkit this book offers, and show you how to shift from that rigid planning to something more, flexible, adaptive, and frankly, a much more enjoyable experimental way to live your life.
Definitely. Let's maybe start with the author's own story, because it perfectly shows the flaw in that whole corporate ladder idea. She was, 27? In San Francisco, working at Google?
Yeah, Google. Sound like the dream job, right? High pay, prestige, travel.
The whole package. The ultimate checkmark for success.
And it was so structured, too. She talks about how Google had a ladder for every single role, level for seniority, promotions based on this, strict rubric. Everything was mapped out, predictable, measurable.
But that predictability, that structure, it actually led to what she calls a petite existential shock therapy. A small shock, but profound.
And it wasn't subtle, was it? She developed a really serious blood clot. Life-threatening, needed surgery.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. Instead of dealing with this major health crisis immediately, she actually found herself trying to delay the operation.
Just so it would line up perfectly with a company retreat she had planned.
Can you imagine?
It's horrifying, really. It just shows how deep that linear thinking goes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The system had basically dictated her priorities so much that her own survival felt secondary to the corporate timeline.
Following that prescribed path, as she put it.
And that realization, that shock, is really the starting point for the book's big critique, that traditional goal setting. It's fundamentally broken for most of us now.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Things like SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. They sound so logical.
They do sound useful, and maybe they are in certain contexts. But the author argues they were designed for predictable, controlled environments.
Right, like a factory floor, maybe. Or a really well-defined project with clear steps.
Exactly. And she says they're wildly out of sync with the chaos and uncertainty of modern life. Disruption is constant now.
So we're trying to force this old, stable framework onto a reality that's just not like that anymore. It's inherently nonlinear.
And it gets worse. This kind of rigid thinking, she argues, encourages what she calls toxic productivity.
Toxic productivity. Okay, what does that look like?
It's when people develop this overly strict mindset. They pursue goals, not out of real curiosity, but just as justifications to keep busy.
Ah, so activity just for the sake of activity, not actual progress towards something meaningful.
Precisely. And it also creates this really discouraging perspective, right? Where satisfaction only exists way out there at the end of some 5-year plan.
Yeah, you're constantly delaying feeling good about what you're doing.
Right. So the solution, the big paradigm shift the book proposes, is adopting the experimental mindset.
The experimental mindset. I like the sound of that.
It's positioned as an antidote to both burnout and boredom, which covers a lot of ground. And basically reframes success. It's not about reaching one single destination anymore. It's a lifelong process, continuous discovery, an ongoing experiment, really, to find out what makes you feel most alive.
Like being a student of your own life, learning as you go.
Exactly.
Okay, so if we're going to be students, we have to embrace the subject matter. And that subject seems to be uncertainty. The author talks about seeking out the liminal space. What is that exactly?
Yeah, liminal space. It's that in-between territory where the old rules don't quite apply anymore. The classic example she gives is a long-haul flight without Wi-Fi.
Ah, okay. You're suspended, can't rush, can't really do much in the usual sense. Unstructured time.
Right. And most people kind of dread that feeling, that lack of control. But the book argues that's where the really fruitful exploration can happen, in that uncertainty.
But our instinct is usually to run from that feeling, isn't it? That feeling of being a bit lost. What are the shields we put up?
Good question. The book points out 3 main defense mechanisms we use against uncertainty. First, there's cynicism. That's basically giving up on the idea of a good life because pursuing it feels too hard or pointless.
Okay, I can see that. What else?
Then there's escapism. That's an easy one to spot, right? Binge watching shows, endless scrolling, maybe constant dream planning that never actually turns into action.
Yeah, planning to plan. And the third?
The third one often masquerades as ambition. Perfectionism.
Ah, perfectionism. That links back to the toxic productivity idea.
Exactly. It's this self-coercion, this intense pressure, driven by the fear of making any mistake. All three just delay the real work of exploring.
And it's not just our internal stuff, right? There are external narratives pushing us too.
Oh, absolutely. Cultural narratives. The book says we need to actively unlearn two really powerful cognitive scripts.
Okay, what are they?
The first is the crowd pleaser script. That's basically adjusting our choices to fit what other people expect of us.
Like her own example, right? Her mom being terrified about her leaving that prestigious Google job.
Precisely. We conform to fit in, to avoid disappointing people, to meet these established definitions of what success should look like.
Makes sense. What's the second script we need to unlearn?
This one's maybe more insidious, especially for ambitious people. It's the epic script.
The epic script?
Yeah, the whole follow your passion mantra.
Wait, hang on. Isn't follow your passion supposed to be good advice? How is that deceptive?
Well, the danger, according to the author, is that it suffers massively from survivorship bias. We only hear about the very few people who found their passion and boom, instant success.
Ah, okay. We don't hear about all the people who followed a passion and it didn't work out or it was incredibly difficult.
Exactly. And the script implies that if it's truly your passion, it should feel easy. Success should just flow naturally.
So the moment you hit a roadblock, which is inevitable,
You abandon it. You think, oh, this must not be my real passion after all. Instead of realizing that hurdles are part of any meaningful pursuit, you need grit, you need to adapt.
that's a really important reframing. Okay, so we unlearn these scripts. How do we actually start designing our own unique path then?
We start by becoming a scientist of our own life. The author suggests adopting an anthropology of your life. You're the researcher studying yourself.
Anthropology of my life. I like that. How do we do that? Field work.
Basically, yes, using what she calls field notes. It's about simple observation throughout your day, jotting things down with a timestamp. The goal is to spot patterns. Where does your curiosity naturally lead you? What energizes you? What drains you?
She suggests tracking 4 specific things, right? They seem pretty simple but powerful.
Yeah, very practical. First, insights, just random thoughts, ideas, questions that pop into your head. Second, energy, noticing your natural peaks and troughs during the day. When do you feel sharpest? When do you slump?
Third, mood, your general emotional state. How do you feel after certain tasks or interactions?
And fourth, encounters your social interactions. Who did you talk to? What was the vibe?
And I guess by tracking mood and encounters together, you can pretty quickly see which people or meetings energize you and which ones, well, don't.
Exactly. It moves self-reflection from being this vague, fuzzy thing into actual data analysis about yourself. You gather the breadcrumbs.
Okay, so once we have these observations, these field notes, how do we turn them into action? This is where the tiny experiments part comes in.
Yes, precisely. This leads us to the core action component of the whole system, the pact.
The pact. Sounds serious.
It's actually defined as a self-invitation, an invitation to try something new for a specific defined period. And here's the crucial difference from a traditional goal. Pacts focus relentlessly on outputs, not outcomes.
Outputs over outcomes. Okay, unpack that a bit.
An outcome is usually external, often outside your full control, like getting a specific job or hitting a certain sales target. An output, though, is the internal action you can control, the thing you actually do.
Ah, okay. She uses the Amelia Earhart example, right?
Perfect example. Her output was successfully flying across the Atlantic. That was the action she controlled and completed. Her outcome, landing exactly where she intended, wasn't achieved, but the core output was a success.
Got it. So the pact focuses on what you will do. What's the format?
It's almost laughably simple. I will action for duration.
Like, I will write for 15 minutes every morning for 2 weeks.
Exactly like that. Or her own example. I will write and share 100 articles in 100 workdays.
Yeah.
That was a huge one.
Okay, but how do we stop this pact from just becoming another rigid, stressful goal we beat ourselves up over?
Good point. That's where the acronym PACT comes in, as criteria for designing a good experiment. It needs to be purposeful, linked to your curiosity or values. Actionable, you can actually do it with your current resources. Continuous, repeatable, so you gather consistent data. And trackable.
Trackable seems key. How?
With a simple binary question. Did you do the action today? Yes or no? That's it.
Ah, So the success of the pact isn't about whether you achieved some grand outcome. It's just about whether you did the thing you said you'd do. Did you track the output?
Exactly. It removes the pressure of the outcome. The author's own massive pact to write 100 articles. That output was the anchor that eventually led to the growth of her company, Nest Labs. The outcome followed the consistent output.
Okay, so the pact is the doing part, the action. But action alone isn't enough, right? We need to learn from it.
Absolutely. Action without reflection is just, well, flailing around. You need to close the loop. Which brings us to the metacognitive tools she designed. Plus minus next.
Metacognition. Thinking about thinking. Why is that so vital here?
Because, as she says, without reflection, change is unintentional. Adaptation is accidental. If you don't pause to think about what worked and what didn't, you're likely just going to repeat the same patterns, the same mistakes.
Makes sense. So what is plus minus next? How does it work?
It's a really simple, structured reflection process, usually done weekly, maybe tied to your packs. You just make 3 columns or sections. Plus, what went well this week? What worked at your experiment? Minus. What didn't go so well? What were the challenges or friction points? And next, based on the plus and minus, what are your concrete plans for what you'll change or try differently next week or in your next pact?
So it's about making intentional adjustments based on actual experience.
Exactly. This is how you make good mistakes. She mentions Da Vinci's notebooks. They're full of messy attempts, iterations. Mistakes aren't failures. They're learning opportunities if you reflect on them.
Plus minus. Next, ensures that learning is deliberate. It builds these adaptive growth loops instead of just rigid planning. Okay, let's switch gears slightly to something everyone struggles with. Time. Feels like there's never enough. How does the book tackle time management?
It does something really interesting. It takes us back to the ancient Greeks and reminds us there are 2 concepts of time. We mostly fixate on chronos.
Chronos, like chronological clock time.
Exactly. Quantitative, linear, finite time. Clocks, calendars, deadlines, tick-tock. And chronos is the time concept that fills us with anxiety, right? That feeling of never enough time because we see every minute as the same as a resource slipping away.
Yeah, definitely feel that. What's the alternative?
The alternative concept is kairos. This is qualitative time, elastic time.
Qualitative. What does that mean in practice?
It's about the unique quality of each moment, each opportunity, each magic window, as she calls it. Mindful productivity focuses on kairos. The value of a moment in kairos time depends on its specific nature and whether your internal resources are aligned with it.
So it's less about packing more minutes into the day and more about matching the right tasks with the right internal state.
Exactly. Stop managing the clock. Start managing your resources. Your physical energy, respecting your circadian rhythm, your chronotype. Your cognitive resources, avoiding constant task switching that drains focus. And your emotional resources, knowing when you have the capacity for deep work versus lighter tasks.
So if I'm a morning person, scheduling my hardest task for 7 a.m. is working with kairos. Trying to force it at 4 p.m. when I'm tired is just fighting chronos.
You got it. It's about quality of time, not just quantity.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, related to time and energy, what about procrastination? That universal killer of productivity. The book has a take on this too, right?
It does, and it's quite refreshing. It argues that procrastination isn't some moral failing or sign of laziness. Yeah. Instead, it's a meaningful signal. It's a messenger you should actually listen to with curiosity.
Listen to procrastination. How? Usually we just feel guilty about it.
Instead of guilt, approach it like a detective. Why are you avoiding this specific task? The book offers the triple check based on head, heart, and hand.
Head, heart, hand. Okay, let's try an example. Say I keep putting off writing a big, difficult business proposal. How would I use the triple check?
Okay, first, check the head. Is the task appropriate? Is the strategy sound? Maybe your resistance is actually telling you the whole approach for the proposal is flawed. Maybe you need to rethink the strategy before you start writing.
Ah, so the block isn't the writing itself, it's the underlying plan. Okay, what's next? Heart.
Check the heart. Is the task exciting? Or at least, is it tolerable? If the answer is no, if it feels dreadful, you need to redesign the experience of doing it.
Redesign the experience, like how?
Maybe you pair the writing with music you love. Maybe you go to a coffee shop that inspires you. Change the environment, add a small reward, lower the emotional barrier to starting.
Okay, makes sense. And the last one, hand.
Check the hand. Is the task doable? Do you have the skills, the resources, the clarity? If you're procrastinating because it feels overwhelming or you don't know how to do a part of it, then the resistance is signaling a need. Maybe you need to ask for help, get some training, or just break the massive task down into much, much smaller, less intimidating steps.
Right. Head. Is the strategy right? Heart. Is the experience okay? Hand. Is it practically possible for me right now?
Exactly. And if the answer to all three is genuinely yes, the task makes sense, you don't dread it, and you feel capable, then you have what she calls aligned aliveness. You're probably good to go.
But if any answer is no, the procrastination isn't laziness, it's a sign. A sign that the experiment, the task itself, needs adjustment.
Precisely. It shifts it from a moral issue to a strategic one. From beating yourself up to detective work, it's optimization, not self-flagellation.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective. Okay, one last big concept. To really embrace this experimental life, we have to fight perfectionism, right?
Yes, that shield against uncertainty we talked about. The book introduces something that sounds almost radical, especially to high achievers. Intentional imperfection.
Intentional imperfection. Sounds like deliberately doing a bad job.
Not exactly bad, but maybe good enough. It's the realization that you simply cannot put 100% maximal effort into every single area of your life all the time, indefinitely. It's impossible and leads to burnout. She talks about strategic mediocrity, like the bond manager aiming for the top 10% consistently over 10 years, not fighting tooth and nail to be #1 every single year, which is exhausting and often counterproductive long term.
So intentional imperfection is about consciously choosing where not to put your maximum effort right now.
Yes. Choosing, with purpose, to let some areas be just okay or good enough for a while. Maybe your house isn't perfectly tidy this month because you're launching a major project. Maybe you scale back social commitments during a learning sprint. This conscious prioritization lets you focus your limited energy and resources on excelling where it matters most for your current experiment, your current pact.
So you sacrifice that feeling of needing everything perfect now for sustainable long-term progress and well-being.
Exactly. It's about sustainable excellence, not short-term, all-consuming perfection.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot. The basic idea of why linear planning fails us, the need to unlearn those cultural scripts.
And the practical toolkit, becoming an anthropologist of your life with field notes, setting those output-focused pacts.
Reflecting and adapting with plus minus next. Understanding time as kairos, not just chronos.
Befriending procrastination with the triple check and embracing intentional imperfection.
The whole system really feels like it moves you away from trying to copy someone else's blueprint for success and towards designing a life that is uniquely, authentically yours, so unique it can only belong to you.
Beautifully put. And there's one final, really powerful idea the book leaves us with. Kind of frames a why behind all this experimentation. It's about moving beyond legacy to focus on generativity.
Generativity, that sounds big. How does that connect back to tiny experiments?
Well, instead of obsessing about your legacy, what people will say about you in your eulogy, the external accolades you might collect. Generativity shifts the focus entirely. It's about the tangible, positive impact you can have right now, today, on other people, on the world around you.
So it's less about future reputation and more about present contribution.
Exactly. It's about cultivating your capacity to produce, to create, to guide, to mentor, to contribute value now.
So the goal isn't some distant potential praise. The goal is the actual creating and helping you do along the way.
Precisely. And focusing on that present-day generativity ensures you're always making meaningful progress, regardless of how messy or unpredictable your experimental path feels. It anchors you in contribution.
That feels like the ultimate antidote to the anxiety of that old linear ladder. Focus on what you can create and give today.
It really is.
That is a fantastic note to end on. A reminder that the process, the discovery, the contribution is the reward. So we really encourage you, if this resonates, start your own field notes maybe. Think about the scripts holding you back, and maybe try out your very first pact today, however small. Thank you so much for joining us for this bookish dive into tiny experiments.
Yeah, this book is such a timely and essential guide, I think, for navigating the world we actually live in. We hope this dive gave you some clarity and maybe sparked some ideas for your own experiments.
Absolutely. Follow the show for more deep dives into influential books and ideas, all tailored for rapid understanding and hopefully immediate application. We'll talk to you next time.